any French person knows about Monaco, the tiny country nestled in the hills of the French Riviera. Considered to be a fiscal paradise, the principality is also famous for its casinos and unique architecture. However, our collective minds often forget that Monaco is not a French city, but a fully sovereign country. The Rock of Monaco was initially settled by Greeks around 6 BC, who named it Monoikos. This name was a reference to Hercules, as it was imagined by its inhabitants that Hercules had built a passage from Italy to Spain and had passed through Monaco. Over the centuries, this piece of land was controlled by multiple civilizations, notably the Romans, the Franks, and the Holy Roman Empire. In 1191, during the rule of this last empire, control of Monaco was given over to the city of Genoa. Historians consider that Monaco's modern history began in 1215, when Fulco del Castello, a Ghibelline, so, in other words, a person who supported the Holy Roman Emperor as spiritual leader rather than the Pope, led his men to the rock to build a fortress. His promises of tax exemptions led to the establishment of a fully fledged settlement in little to no time. Little did he know, however, that this tempting offer would attract the attention of some of his worst enemies, the Guelphs, who supported the Pope as spiritual leader rather than the opposite. One of these men was Francois Grimaldi, who, with the help of his cousin Renier, captured the fort and proclaimed its independence from Genoa in 1297. They did so by famously disguising themselves as monks to infiltrate the fortress, which is why the royal Monegasque flag of today has 2 monks adorning it. In theory, this is when Monaco is established as a sovereign nation. The Grimaldis had to fend off multiple Genoese attempts at retaking their rock, but all of them failed. It would take over 200 years for Monaco's independence to be recognized by France, which was when Monaco truly began to forge its own path in history. Unfortunately, Monaco's alliance with France was not to last. Disputes between them led to Monaco seeking a protection of Spain in 1524. This was a necessary move for its survival. Unfortunately, though, the country ended up suffering many financial burdens since the Grimaldis were forced to pay the costs of garrisoning Spanish troops for more than a century in their own fortress. In 1612, Monaco's ruler became a prince for the first time. Up until this moment, the ruler of Monaco was always considered a lord due to the small lands they possessed. Prince Honoré II was the first to receive this title, and would then pass it on to his children. His reign resulted in a sort of golden age for the now principality. He managed to reforge an alliance with France and also secure his countrymen's interests. At this point, Monaco profited immensely from ships passing through the area. This prosperity, though, was not to last. In 1793, the French Revolution came knocking at its door with its troops. Monaco was effectively annexed by these forces, and the prince's family was imprisoned, and all of their possessions were confiscated. After Napoleon's abdications in 1814, though, Monaco finally regained its independence, even if it was only partial. Unfortunately for them, the principality was considered a protectorate of the Kingdom of Sardinia, and would have to wait another 50 years before it could become fully independent. It is in 1856 when Monaco's history becomes connected to the Monaco we know and love today. In order to increase the revenue of his realm, Charles III, the then Prince of Monaco, authorized the creation of the Société des Bains de Mer, which aimed to build a German-style casino in the realm. The idea behind this venture was that it would attract rich clients who could not gamble elsewhere, since gambling was illegal in many European countries, notably France. Unfortunately, though, Monaco was still very isolated geographically at this point. The only way to actually get into the island was to trudge through mountainous terrain or to go by boat. Because of this, the casino ended up being a commercial failure. It would take another couple attempts for the idea of a casino to be finally successful, and it would also take a couple of relocations. The construction of a railroad to Monaco in 1864 finally greatly increased the amount of tourists that could actually go there, and it is at this point that the casino gained its popularity that is still present today. It was at this point that the vision of Monaco also, as a luxurious tourist destination, became a reality. Since this moment, the principality has enjoyed considerable prosperity, minus the time when it was occupied by Italian troops during World War II. However, in this time period, it underwent several political changes, the first of which is that it became a constitutional monarchy in 1911. At this point, Monaco was one of the last absolute monarchies in Europe, which goes to show, in one sense, how stable their rule had still been in the last 2 centuries. This stability was interrupted shortly thereafter with the Monaco succession crisis of 1918. It arose because France objected to the prospect of a German national inheriting the Monegasque throne, who was the designated successor at this point. Since Monaco could not afford to make an enemy of its only neighbor, a settlement had to be reached, where the successor had to be approved by France. This was part, also, of the Treaty of Versailles, a fact less known by most people. What's more, Monaco is required to align its political, economic, and military interests with those of France. The only thing Monaco received in return was that they were protected militarily by France. Talk about an unfair agreement, am I right? This then defined Monegasque foreign policy until the early 21st century, when Prince Rainier III began advocating for a more independent Monaco. Through small acts of defiance, he decreased French influence in Monegasque affairs. His legacy is now carried on by His Serene Highness, HSH, Prince Albert II. Today, Monaco is a thriving country that attracts the attention of tourists from around the world.